Slayer's X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer, that's right, we're rocking 2 subtitles here, is an eccentric shooter that truly embraces the concept of throwback. Developed by Big Z Studios and published by No More Robots, Slayer's X brings the imagination of a teenager to life in the form of a mid-90s first-person shooter, full of explosions, violence, attitude, and poo. In today's video, I'll be lending my thoughts on this absurd, adolescent, retro romp, and whether or not it's a nostalgia trip worth taking. But before all that, a big thank you to developer Big Z Studios for providing the review code. Alrighty, let's scarf down the last of the za and get hacking.
Closer next time and I'll kick you in the nards.
The first thing you should know about Slayer's X is that it's actually a sequel/spin-off to the 2019 simulation game Hypnospace Outlaw, and like that game is a tribute to and parody of 90s internet culture, fully embracing the awkward, weird, goofy, and outright garish graphic design aesthetics of that era.
When I was 16, I designed a computer game in this notebook, and it was awesome.
The setup is that a guy finds a notebook containing a computer game he designed when he was 16 years old and decides to finish it. The result is Slayer's X. In it, we step into the sneakers of Zane, a resident of Boise, Idaho, who is the idealized quote-unquote adult of 90s youth, full of the decade's signature attitude.
It's time to mash some Psyko potatoes and make a potato salad out of their stupid little guts.
And if you ask me, he kinda looks like the happy console gamer. Zane is basically the most awesome dude in Boise. He's the CEO of his own company and the President of the United States, enacting popular policies like free pizza for all, and he's worshipped among the rat community.
I'm a rat! I eat dirt!
Zane is also training to be an X-Slayer, basically a superhero able to wield a mystical power called Hackblood.
Zane, your Hackblood power is growing, but you are not quite ready to yield its full power yet.
One day, while Zane is training in his dojo, Boise is attacked by the evil Psyko Sindikate, who bomb Zane's apartment and kill his mom. Vowing revenge, Zane takes up arms and ventures out into the pixelated streets of Boise to save the day.
I must revenge her.
Now, when I first saw this game's eccentric art style, I couldn't help but compare it to the surrealist ImSim Cruelty Squad, which features a similar aesthetic meant for disturbing satire and nightmare fuel. Going into Slayer's X, I assumed there would be a similar unnerving vibe. Nope, not even close. This game is pure goofiness and is 100% dedicated to its concept, being the dream game of a 90s teenage boy. Many of the things an adolescent boy of the era would appreciate are here, like over-the-top action, violent video games, bad attitudes, rock music, and funny stuff, like poop.
He called the shit poop!
Slayer's X might be the crappiest shooter out there, and that's no dig on its quality. I have never seen so much poop humor crammed into a game since, I think, Conker's Bad Fur Day? I mean, if a poop joke can be made, the game makes it. Not to mention the literal piles of it you find throughout, along with mobs of enemies that are sentient poops, chucking pieces of corn at you. It's a straight-up poo extravaganza.
It smells like a ball of turds mixed with sardine buttholes.
I mean, it makes sense. When I was a lad, poo humor was the gold standard of all things funny. Ah shoot, who am I kidding? It still is as an adult. Slayer's X is purposely going for a so bad it's good quality, and I would say it pulls it off. Its over-the-top moments, gross-out humor, and emulation of corny 90s aesthetics never feels forced or pandering. Truly, it feels like a game that was cooked up in the mind of a rad 90s teenager. Things are even misspelled believably. The developer has really captured something very specific and very funny here, and I assume it's because they lived it. If you don't find cringy things funny, then it's wise to avoid this, because this game is a time capsule of cringe.
Ew. This is the worst smell I've ever smelled. I've smelled butthole.
Slayers X's visual presentation is the most eccentric aspect of the game. As I said before, the graphics largely poke fun at 90s internet graphic design. It's full of awkward 3D models and spiky decorative fonts indicative of the era, the sort of nostalgia that might make Gen X and millennials squirm. It all looks like it was thrown together at random by some kid whose art direction boiled down to whatever looks coolest and is funny, which was the point. At the same time though, there's a ton of detail here and great effort to create elaborate jokes with the assets. If you end up playing this, make sure you take your time with the carnival level. It's full of hilarity. What's really impressive to me, and I think shows off the developer's skill, is that the game was built in Unity and looks exactly like a game made in the build engine, the tech that powered Duke Nukem 3D, Blood, and most recently, Ion Fury. The way the sprites look, the way shadows are handled, the color quality, even the sound effects, it feels exactly like build. In fact, I would have been fooled into thinking it was build if it wasn't for the occasional 3D model with physics. I mean, say what you want about the art style, but this attention to technical detail deserves all the praise. The game's soundtrack is a suite of 90s alt-rock that sounds spot on for the era, and it 100% matches the tone of the game. Zane is always spewing sarcastic or tough lines that did make me giggle. The voice actor did such a great job making him sound like a punky kid.
Well, not anymore, 'cause you're dead!
My favorite aspect of the visual presentation is the cinematics, which are impressively terrible. And I stand by that oxymoron. They have all the qualities, or perhaps shortcomings, of every bad 90s video game cutscene, and it's hilarious. There's sloppy rendering mistakes everywhere, janky robotic animations, over-the-top facial animations, and flat-out atrocious voice acting.
Whoa, Zane. If you keep doing moves like that, I might let you go out with me.
But if you look between the jank, you can absolutely see the polish and technique that comes from somebody with professional skill. There's decent lighting, solid camera compositions, sharp editing, and depth of field effects. Also tiny moments of visual flair to help the storytelling, like abstract background changes for heightened emotion and subtle expressive graphics for, say, a phone ringing. They may look goofy, but these are techniques that don't always occur to amateurs. These subtle marks of quality only make the cutscenes funnier to me.
And one last thing. I am your...
Mikey, no!
Oh, and tying it all together is a heavy amount of video compression that was common for the time. Not everyone is gonna like the way this game looks, and fair enough. It really is meant for those that grew up gaming around this time. But I have to stress, it takes a lot of skill to make things look this old school bad. Now, as eccentric as the visuals and premise for this game are, the gameplay is pretty much straightforward, textbook, old school FPS. I mean, before I was saying this game looks like an old build engine title, and it plays like one too, with a feel not too dissimilar from Duke Nukem 3D. Which is a good thing. Truthfully, there's not much here for me to criticize in terms of mechanics. Shooting feels good and snappy, movement is tight and responsive, and there's a decent variety of enemy types that feel good and balanced and bring something to the table. It's just that if you've played a lot of throwback shooters, then little will surprise you about Slayers X.
Escalade has a half-blood charge!
Level design is solid, maps have a good flow to them and do a good job of giving players fun, crowded arena fights, but also a lot of freedom to explore with plenty of hidden shortcuts to uncover as well as some epic secrets. Each is also jam-packed with detail and interactivity, either to flesh them out or just make the player laugh. There are some portions of these maps that can feel a little too big and empty, but never to the point that it ate into my enjoyment. One complaint I have is that the game is too easy. My first playthrough of Slayers X was on hard, which was the second to the last difficulty, and it was pretty much a cakewalk. The last few levels get tougher for sure, but even then it wasn't much of a mountain to climb. The hardest difficulty turned the heat up more to my satisfaction, but it was still not a terribly tough play.
These are the double pistols. Only Zane can yield these pistols.
Your weaponry, despite having some wacky designs, all fit into the classic FPS weapon types and behave accordingly. You have a hard-hitting shotgun, a devastating rapid-fire type, some boom types in the form of a grenade launcher and a hunky rocket launcher, as well as dual pistols. What I appreciated though is that there are some playful quirks to these weapons that add some extra, albeit minor fun to gameplay. For example, the shotgun type is called the Glass Blasta and fires shards of glass. What's cool is that collecting ammo for it requires smashing glass of any kind and collecting the shards. Essentially, they took something I just do to goof around and made it a key mechanic. And the sludge launcher, the grenade launcher, attracts rats when fired who will nip at enemies' feet. And chatting with them after is highly recommended.
It's time to chew ass and chew through wires, and I'm all out of wires.
One unique aspect to the gameplay is the hack blood system. Represented by the green meter at the bottom right of the screen, when enemies are killed, they drop hack blood. Collecting over 95 hack blood gives your melee weapon, the S-Blade, a hack blood charge. And don't worry, you'll know when this happens because Zane will tell you.
The S-Blade has a hack blood charge. 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 The S-Blade has a hack blood charge.
Is it Zane? Is it charged? Gee, thanks. A charged S-Blade shoots green energy waves, not unlike Link's Master Sword from classic Zelda titles, able to slice enemies in half. It's a good time. The other use for hack blood is the hack blood talisman. This shoots energy balls as well as a devastating laser that will eat up all the hack blood in your tank. It's so powerful it will make Zane float in the air. It's ridiculously fun to use and ridiculously OP. None of the enemies can defend against it. Some of the toughest fights can be made trivial by this ability. Now, hack blood also serves as your shield, so there is a little bit of a trade-off. The more hack blood you use, the lower your defense. While this is a solid idea, in truth, it was hardly a concern. In fact, I never really thought of it at all during gameplay because hack blood is plentiful. Unfortunately, the S-Blade and the Talisman are the only uses for the hack blood system, and it's a shame the developer wasn't able to include more weapons or abilities that can take advantage of it. It almost feels like a waste.
I made out with your mom last night.
I do have one big criticism of this game though, and it's that Slayers X is short. Surprisingly short. The main campaign lasts only 9 missions, and for me, I was able to beat it in a little under 4 hours. It's like the first episode of an early access release, but this isn't early access. This is the full game. The thing is, the game sells for $16.99, which is kinda steep when you compare it to other retro-style first-person shooters within this price range that offer anywhere from 20 to 30 missions. For example, Rot, which I recently did a video for, has around 24 missions and goes for $19.99. A closer comparator is 3D Realms Cultic, which has 10 missions, similar to Slayers X, and goes for $9.99. But here's the other thing. Taking the price and mission count out of the equation, from an experience standpoint, Slayers X ends right when it really gets going. As I said before, this is a pretty easy campaign, but it starts to heat up in a satisfying way in the last few missions. Even the absurd story starts to hit a stride, and then it just ends. I literally yelled, "That's it!" when the credits rolled. It was so abrupt, I wondered if the game might have been pushed out early. And it turns out, yes, it was. I'm gonna go ahead and throw up a spoiler warning here just in case. Click away now if you want to find out for yourself. So there are 3 bonus levels that unlock after you beat the game, and one of them is set in an unfinished level. And Zane more or less tells you it was left incomplete because the publisher pressured the game to release because the budget ran out. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now first off, I appreciate the unfinished level being included, and I am sympathetic to this. Making games is hard, who knows what might have happened to cause this. But what sucks here is that there are a lot of shooters that do what this game does just as good, if not better, and give you a lot more bang for your buck. And it makes Slayers X tough to recommend as a purchase. Now the good news though is that Slayers X was also simultaneously released on Xbox Game Pass. And if you happen to be subscribed to that service, then this isn't an issue. And to that, I will say Slayers X is the perfect Game Pass game. You can download it and have a great weekend going through it. Hopefully the deal from Game Pass and whatever sales Slayers X gets can get us some DLC follow-ups to bring this game closer to the developer's original vision.
Shut up, idiot! My mom! She was blown up by cycles while driving her car!
Slayers X has a lot of great qualities for a throwback shooter. It's fun, it's funny, and its detailed, beautifully jank art style emulates retro to the nth degree. And I can't help but respect how wholeheartedly it embraces its eccentric concept. However, it's let down by its easy difficulty, short length, and price tag. If you're a retro shooter fan and have a Game Pass subscription, definitely check it out, especially if its humor and visuals appeal to you, or if you're a fan of Hypnospace Outlaw. For everyone else though who is interested but doesn't have a Game Pass subscription, wait for a discount or wait to see if any DLC is announced.
Your mom's dumb.
That's it for me. What are your thoughts on Slayers X? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. If you dug the video, please be sure to subscribe, like, share, and smack that bell. If you want to come say hi, my Discord is linked below, along with my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.